questions about the election. You have them. We have answers for them. Heck, it's simple enough for a baby. Well, maybe. Speaking of babies, a lot of you think a charity is being won, and you want to help the woman who isn't getting what she won. That was a bad surprise for her. A Denver high school got a good one from a Nobel Prize winner. She flew here, and her plane likely made a guy in Strasbourg cringe. You know, the plane noise complainer. He's usually the one making the phone call. This time, it was us.
There are a lot of aircraft that fly over my home.
Michael Peterson lives north of Strasbourg, about 16 miles away from DIA. He says his home is right in the airport's flight path, and he is responsible for about 75% of the noise complaints the airport got last year.
When I hear that, I think, am I crazy, to do this many? But then when, the aircraft start flying over every 2 minutes for an hour and a half.
Is it really that bad?
Some of them are really noisy, but it's the constant ones that are really bothersome.
Bad enough to file around 10 complaints a day?
I don't know if it would bother you or not. Maybe I'm just sensitive to this. I live out there so I can enjoy the quiet, and I can't do that with the constant aircraft.
So he complains which don't seem to be working, leaving the simple question.
If it is impacting you guys so much, I mean, why not just move? Go somewhere else in the country where it's quiet.
Yeah. We really like the location. We like the view, From our home we can see the entire Front Range. And, that's worth something to us, so.
In case you were wondering, they aren't all phone calls. Peterson files complaints online now, hasn't made a call in about a year. Well, is the election over yet? Nope. We still have 17 days. 17 more days of political ads, 17 more days of blabbing our mouths about the election, 17 more days to get your ballot ready. Next viewers are taking their votes seriously. We appreciate that. They're asking us a bunch of questions about their ballots and how the election works, and we'll keep answering them. Next question. Jana asks, I received 2 voting ballots in the mail. What should I do? Your answer? The Secretary of State's office says the best thing is to contact your county clerk and let the elections division know right away. They'll get it all squared away for you. Tom asks, what stops people from voting at least twice when they get a ballot in the mail and just drop it off at an election box and then go to a poll to vote on the same day? Good question, Tom. Secretary of State's office has a good answer for this, too. It has a real-time poll book that's connected to a statewide voter registration database. Once a vote is recorded, it's impossible to vote again. There are 2 outcomes under that scenario. If the mail ballot is scanned first, the voter who tries to vote in person will be denied the opportunity. If the voter votes in person before the clerk receives the mail ballot, the clerk will reject the mail ballot when they get it. Oh, and the Secretary of State wants this to be a friendly reminder that it's a crime to attempt to vote via mail and then in person. Your name would likely be turned over to the DA for an investigation. Adele asks, what if you use check marks as opposed to filling in the little circles? Doesn't that void a ballot? Short answer, no, not necessarily. Most voting systems would flag it as a potential undervote, which would require some sort of decision from a bipartisan team of judges. We hope and expect that you are doing all your research before filling out your ballot. There's one next viewer who is starting young, about 18 years before she'll actually be able to vote. This is baby London. She's weighing her options in her blue book in her high chair. She's 7 months old. Her mom, Carrie, says she has spent a lot of time reading up on ballot information and she thinks she's made her decisions. Way to go, London. Ever gotten to the judges portion of your ballot and not known what to do? Politics guy Brandon Rinneman did a piece earlier this year on Next that will help you out. Here it is.
In the last 18 years, the independent panels that review the job performance of judges named 10 that weren't good enough to stay on the bench. Want to guess how many voters fired? Only 3. On average, if your performance review says you shouldn't be a judge anymore, you win re-election with 54% of the vote. Voters keep sending judges with failing reviews back to their 6-figure jobs paid with our tax dollars. Jobs that decide who gets custody of kids, what happens to criminals, and sometimes how the government works. If this surprises you, you're not alone. Does that surprise you?
Yes, it does.
Really?
I don't think that that's the way it should work.
Former State Supreme Court Justice Rebecca Corliss is an expert on reviewing judges.
My suspicion is that those voters didn't even know that there was a do not retain recommendation or didn't care about it.
This year's reviews come in the mail soon, but if history repeats itself, they won't make much difference. The last election's a great example. Take Pueblo County Judge Valerie Haynes. Her laundry list of problems included rejecting plea agreements with no explanation, a hostile environment in her courtroom, didn't understand her poor marks, leaving little reason to expect improvements. She's still a judge. Voters sent her back with 62% of the vote. She's one of 3 judges that got a do not retain last election. Only one lost his job. So why is this happening? A lot of us in Colorado skip voting for our judges, and the vast majority of voters here say they don't know enough about judges to vote.
We found that not very many people have looked at our information, like some 75%.
Kent Wagner runs the performance review program.
So we really just need to increase that readership.
One thing that doesn't help with readership, this stuff is hard to read. Let's look at this actual write-up on District Judge Michael Schifferl. He's a do not retain this year. By the state's rules, the write-up on him has to tell you a bunch of nice things before it gets to the problems, like where he went to school, his old private practice, what he does in the community, like being an honorary member of the Koshari Dancers. What's that? This. 4 paragraphs in total, and it's not until the last half of the last one that you see why he should lose his job. In the news world, we call this burying the lead.
We're always trying to figure out how to make it as readable as possible.
Should they re-examine those rules?
Sure. I mean, I don't think it's perfect. I don't think any of these programs are perfect.
To be honest, we in the news media could also do better. We don't tend to cover judges' races, so let's fix that right now. These are this year's do not retain judges. Judge Michael Schifferl. His review says he's got poor legal writing, he seems too chummy with people in his courtroom, and he doesn't accept constructive criticism. District Court Judge Jill Ellen Strauss, there are concerns about her courtroom demeanor, below average grades on fairness and communication. Also, 81% of attorneys said she's biased towards the prosecution. Judge Michael Schifferl, Judge Jill Ellen Strauss, the experts are begging you to fire them, and chances are you won't. For Next, I'm Brandon Ritteman.
We have a whole Colorado voter guide right now on 9news.com that'll help you make a lot of those big decisions this year. Well, first it was no selfies with your ballot. Now CDOT is chiming in. Hey, all of you supporters of candidates issues out there, or anything political, don't put any signs up on state highways. Any sign placed in a state right-of-way is illegal. CDOT will actually take it down. They do store it in a maintenance facility, though, if you want to come back and pick it up.
Next question. What's the story with that big old cross on the mountain? You know, the one that lights up at night? It's called Mount Lindo, just off 285 and Turkey Creek Road. Did you know there's a cemetery up there? It's a really peaceful place. Quite an incredible view of the city. Anyhoodle, the cross was built the year after the cemetery opened. First light Easter Sunday, 1964. The guy who had it built said you could see it from the window of his mom's Park Hill home at the time. People on Facebook Live today said they could see it from Brighton on a clear night. It's the largest lit cross in the U.S., 393 feet tall, made up of light panels. You can see them here from the behind view of the cross, which is the closest view you can get. The thing is literally propped up against the mountain. The ACLU tried to have it removed back in the 80s, but Jefferson County made it a historic landmark. It did go dim during the energy crisis of the 70s, but
because of outcry of the city and the people, he had literally built windmills on top of the mountain to generate electricity to light the cross again.
There you have it. And hey, if you ever have a chance, go check out that view.
Remember those mailboxes in Lowry we told you about a few weeks ago, the ones with a bunch of thieves that they actually opened them to steal the mail? After almost 4 weeks, the neighborhood is getting some new mailboxes. They've had to go to the post office to pick up their mail in the meantime. They started tearing down the broken ones yesterday. The HOA ended up footing the bill to replace them. Well, we lost a member of our community today, and we wanted to pause for a moment to remember them. If you live in Aurora, maybe you were late to work because your alarm clock wasn't working this morning. That's because there was a power outage. Excel says it was caused by a raccoon. According to Wikipedia, this raccoon probably leaves behind a litter of 2 to 5 young. He loved rummaging through trash, hanging out in chimneys, and
wreaking general havoc. So at least he died doing what he loved. The unnamed raccoon was probably around 2 years old. He'll be missed. We all have memories of childhood, but usually they're just that, memories.
I remember how big the steering wheel felt and how the front seat of the truck kind of felt like a couch.
He can relive that memory now just by walking to the garage. And next, viewers are sticking up for someone in one of our stories because that's just what we do.
Well, it may have been in the mid-70s here in the metro area, but it was the kickoff to ski season up in the mountains. Can you believe it? Out there at A Basin, first chair, these fine folks enjoying, some fresh turns up there at Arapahoe Basin. Snowboarders getting in on some of the action too, and looking ahead toward the weekend. If skiing isn't your thing, how about golf? You still have time to do it. It's going to be beautiful. This is what you really want to know. Low 80s on Saturday, mid-70s on Sunday. We have this huge dome of high pressure that's sitting over the central part of the country. Storms on either coast, those won't be affecting us this weekend. Nothing but warm, dry conditions for us. Even tonight, pretty mild overnight temperatures dipping into the lower 40s. By tomorrow, we're back to the lower 80s. Plenty of sunshine out there. Lighter winds, about 5 to 10 miles per hour. And then a look at the extended forecast. I don't know about you, but I'm really digging this. By Monday into Tuesday, temperatures cool off ever so slightly. A weak little storm pushes in, mainly up in the mountains, potentially bringing them a little bit of fresh snowfall. That would be nice. For us, we will be lucky if we see a couple of sprinkles on Tuesday morning, but that's going to be about it. Temperatures rebound by the middle of next week into the 70s and 80s, and then finally, Steve, maybe another little cool off coming our way.
I could use some fall. Thanks, Danielle. You haven't had a childhood if you haven't at least just once sat in the seat of a fire truck. It inspires kids everywhere to be firefighters. That dream doesn't often come true, but it did for one firefighter, and he owes it all to that truck. Since he can remember, Eric Hurst has always wanted to be a firefighter.
And I was infatuated with the fire department. Castlewood was always the trucks that I had seen, and so I visited the fire station a lot with my parents.
If you're not from around here, Castlewood is now South Metro Fire Rescue. For a kid growing up in Littleton, there was just something about those trucks.
I remember how big the steering wheel felt and how the front seat of the truck kind of felt like a couch because it was so big.
That bright red one always stood out.
It was one of the more unique ones because it was specifically designed to respond to airplane crashes at the airport. So it's very much a one of a kind.
The 1970s International was taken out of service in 2000. In that time, Hurst started working for South Metro. He lost track of his favorite truck. Then one day, more than 2 decades after he first sat in it, he saw the truck for sale online.
Immediately, I had a flashback back to when I was a kid and sitting on the front seat of that, and I can't, explain how big the steering wheel felt as a child looking at it.
Oh my gosh, check out the interior.
And it didn't have the labels on it, it didn't have the old lights on it, but I could identify it immediately.
Call the guys, test drive it, and purchase this truck.
So I called the dealership and told them that I needed to get it.
He bought it in August for $13,000.
It's in great shape, it's just old.
And slapped on the old Castlewood Fire Department decals. He plans to take the truck to parades and events, and maybe, just maybe, it might inspire another young firefighter fan.
So it's exciting for me to be able to kind of give back to the kids who are on the street watching and maybe have the same mindset that I do and one day might be able to own their own.
One of Hurst's and our favorite things about the truck is its history. He tells us this truck was actually hit by a plane during an air show. Part of the cab was destroyed. The firefighter driving it at the time wasn't hurt at all. The truck had to be rebuilt. The original door and pieces of the old cab are still at the station. She won a $550,000 house, but can't claim the prize because of the taxes. Our story on Crystal Tanner getting a lot of attention. Here's Jeremy Hohola from our 9 Wants to Know team.
It's a story resonating with thousands of people. Crystal Tanner, whose brain disorder is causing a loss of control of muscle, can't claim this $500,000 house in Aurora after she won it in the St. Jude raffle. The charity is requiring a $180,000 tax payment before it signs over the home. Many viewers take issue with Crystal's risky move. She bought 50 $100 raffle tickets, maxing out her credit card. She explained to us why she did that, admitting it wasn't exactly logical.
I was in a depression this last year, and every time I looked at the video of this house, I couldn't turn down this idea.
Other viewers are upset we'd give this story attention, like Mary, who wrote, "She lives in the real world like the rest of us. Don't try to make us weep for this woman."
But not everybody is cold-hearted, like retired banker Jeff, who wrote, "Crystal took a very big chance. Apparently she knew something that everyone else didn't." A lot of people have been writing us asking how they can help Crystal. We're putting them in contact with her. So will she get the house? Maybe. I'm Jeremy Hohola for Next.
Students at South High School in Denver got a big surprise as the youngest person to win the youngest person ever to win the Nobel Peace Prize pays them a surprise visit. Malala Yousafzai fights the Taliban over the rights of girls who want to go to school in Pakistan. When she was 15, a masked gunman boarded her school bus and tried to kill her by shooting her in the face.
And the terrorists, they tried all their best they could do, and they still have not stopped me. So it means that I am on the right path, and I should continue my campaign for education.
After the assembly, Malala met privately with some refugee students from South High School. She wants the teenagers to believe in themselves and have a voice. Hey, may I make a recommendation? Doing my best Kyle impression here. This is where we point you to something, anything that isn't ours, but is awesome. If you don't have plans tomorrow, you live in the Denver area, go check out Brewability Lab. It is a brewery that employs adults with developmental disabilities. You may remember we did a story about it a few months ago. Brewery opens tomorrow, has a big event from 2 to 10. It's family friendly, people of all ages are welcome. We have information about it on the Next Facebook page. Our favorite character of the week has some good news next. Next always keeps its promises, like the one we made a while ago about sharing why people are happy every Friday. So I wanted to share this little moment from a story I was working on yesterday. And no, it's not news, it's life.
What else are you excited about right now? Like in life in general?
I got my own bike.
You got your own bike? That's pretty cool. How fast do you go on that bike?
Pretty fast.
Yeah? Oh, that's too cool.
Pretty fast. There you have it. Some good news. Happy Friday. A little bit of feedback here. Tracy, hey, next. Where's Kyle Clark? One of my last weekends home before I deploy. Looking forward to being able to see Kyle. Tracy, I'm sorry Kyle's not here. Thank you for your service, though. You're headed off to the Middle East. We wish you the best of luck there. Hope we did a decent job. I read those, this is Sydney, by the way. I read those Colorado ballot judge recommendations, then husband and kids asked me what they said. Still doing the cool kids homework. Huh? Yeah, that's right. Somebody wanted to know if they can go up to the cross. You can't. Somebody else liked the word any hoodle. Shout out to Tim Ryan, one of our bosses. He's the one who got me doing that. See you next time.